A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another very interesting session of GETI Talk. My name is Shilpi. I'm the Relationship Manager with the Global Education and Training Institute. Well, since the pandemic has started, many educationists have started thinking, does education needs to be revamped? And that is what my guest is going to talk about today, that present education system needs to be revamped. She's an intellectual. She is the principal of Podar International School in Mumbai. Her name is Mrs. Soma Chatterjee. She's done her MSc from Vishwabharati University, Shanti Niketan, Kolkata, in plant breeding and cytogenetics. She went on to pursue her master's again in science and psychology in counseling, and then another master's in education. She is also pursuing her PhD from Himachal University, and her PhD is in education from the Pradesh University. So, welcome, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us, taking out time on a Sunday morning, and talking about something which is actually the need of the hour. So, thank you for joining the Disruptive Education movement, and maybe now listen to your views.
Uh, Very good morning to all viewers, and also thank you, Shilpi ma'am. I hope you all are safe and doing well. I have been asked to give a talk on education structure, and so I preferred to give some insights to present education system. So finally, I decided to talk on revamping of the present education structure. I believe all must be eagerly waiting to see a revamp, especially in these pandemic times. Although I am not authorized to bring any change, but yes, we can nurture these views and the insights and take the decision to the decision makers along with the discussions. To begin with, I would like to stress on why, what, when, and how to make the topic alive via discussions. To make this day happen, I have collected quite a few views from students, teachers, parents, and educators. Believe me, all have given me brilliant ideas and concepts. So, my dear friends, we all are waiting for the revamp. I'm sure we all are waiting for it. So, in brief, to take the discussion ahead, I would like to first quote what is the purpose of education? Learning alphabets and numbers should be bilingual or trilingual as well. Native languages have deeper ramifications on the learner than mere repetition. Example, Aksharmala recitation in itself is a proven breathing exercise, which in turn influences the neural pathways in the brain and the body as a whole. The purpose of learning mathematics properly from the foundation level is to influence quick decision making capabilities. History should talk of the ramifications of all scientific progression on the human race rather than learning about wars, treaties, and standalone events. Learning of physical sciences should be actually learned how everything in this world works on science that's understandable before beyond influences. Lots of focus of the entire learning process should be to encourage exploration, discovery, and research, both guided and non guided. Technology should be taught only as a tool to conduct a particular purpose or active effectively. The next point which I want to say is socialization with fellow learners to mingle, accept, and be compassionate to others should be the core fiber of education, without which commitments organizations and nations will fail. Education today cannot be compartmentalized to be region specific with the advent of information technology. Education should shift from being in the spirit of competition and competing for top campuses to a mere deeper level of learning, which will create balanced personalities and thus create assets amongst Homo sapiens. Thus, education to me should be holistic. Today, when I address you as a principal, I portray my educational journey of being a Carmelite, which is a famous school in the East, and a Shantiniketan pass out, to the kind of education of values and arts that my parents have inculcated in me. I relate many things that come as a flash in my mind. Homes are also learning campuses where parental approach beyond biases pave the way for educational campuses being instrumental in moduling students. Education campuses should act as a gurukul to mold students beyond academics, and educators themselves should be on continuous learning beyond subject boundaries. The disruption in school education system is long due and somehow never got its due attention from the stakeholders. Over last several decades, particularly post-liberalization, adoption of new economy policy, technology, and telecom revolution, upsurge of service sector over manufacturing sector have fundamentally influenced both future of jobs and jobs of future. The inability to adapt these changes in the form of content, deployment, and evaluation has not only made it more irrelevant and indifferent to the aspirations and development goals of new learners, but also counterproductive in many ways. How, when, and why do we implement new ways of education? Let us discuss now. Here is a broad overview of some fundamental changes that has a potential to make it more aligned and relevant to the demands of the future. Let's divide these into four broader areas. Number one, let us discuss learning pedagogy. For centuries, the school learning in India has been confined to a classroom teaching, fixed hours, and unidirectional flow of communication. Teachers focus only on knowledge transfer. This was good enough till the time teachers were exclusive source of gaining knowledge to the learner. However, with changing times, not only learners have access to content, but teachers and both the ends have the same source of content. Please make a note of the same. Teachers has to shift the role from knowledge giver to facilitator of thinking processes. The online education has been knocking the door for last whole decade but was always kept at the bay. With Corona, the situation forced the schools and parents to allow gadgets and screen times to the students, which was condemned till just a day prior. But this transition of learning from classroom to online is not as easy as a click of a button. Besides making the infrastructure, connectivity, and electricity available at school, one must need to take equal, if not more, efforts in building the mindset of online learning among learner and the teacher. Learning and teaching online is just not adoption of classroom environment. in digital form. It requires fundamental changes in the content and delivery to make it more engaging and impactful. Gratification of the learning is one such powerful tool that needs to be explored in a bigger way. This also needs a well thought out plan of integrating online learning with classroom learning as schools reopen post pandemic to ensure that the transition which was undertaken painstakingly don't go waste. This also puts urgent demand on the government to build infrastructures in the rural areas and link them to virtual learning sessions with urban teachers. This may require to create a pool of teachers who's proficient in online teaching and can deliver online sessions to rural students, leading to uplifting the quality of education at remote places. The government can look at relocation of their budgets complemented by CSR and other foundation organizations' effort. Now, the second point which I am going to tell you is the content and curriculum also needs to be taken into consideration. A lot of beef have been debated on the education moving from offline to online. But the larger debate is due on what should be taught instead of how it should be taught. This pandemic has underlined the importance of teaching life skill and need for building capabilities to manage uncertainties of the future. The focal point of content needs to shift from knowledge to skills. An objective evaluation of the content syllabi with respect to job, careers, or future throws a gloomy picture. As per various research reports, 62% of today's jobs will cease to exist by 2022, and 85% of jobs of 2030 are not known to us at all. So, we must introduce life skills, learning in curriculum along with academics that will prepare children to mold themselves with the changes around them and build an ability to look at careers in the area of their passion. Internationally, schools have recognized this need, and India has no choice if we want to build a youth of tomorrow who will be competing in global markets. The third point, which is a broader category as well, is the responsibility of the stakeholders. We cannot forget them. The focal point of current school education has to shift from school or a board to a learner. The school is currently an assembly line with a prescribed menu for a child who has to go through the motion without a choice, with added pressure of achieving proficiency. It should instead be a laboratory for child to go through his or her self-reflection and explore their own talent and look at opportunities to excel. For example, a child good at drawing or music should not be compelled to be good at maths that make them go through frustrations without their fault. This can be achieved by creating modular curriculums with basic and advanced levels in each subject and build options for a child to opt. This will lead to children identifying and building their natural inclinations, talent early in life, reduce tension of competitive exams, and nurturing more job creators than job seekers. The fourth point, the fourth broad category is examination and evaluation, which we cannot forget to include. The damages caused by competitive exams, rote learning, memory testing, evaluation methods are evident. Various alternatives such as project based evaluations, experimentations, internship, psychometric assessment tools can proxy the need of evaluation, replacing the current outdated methods. Encouragements to music, sports, performing arts beyond top up marks can change the canvas of future careers, making them great and happy. While fighting a battle with corona, we all have demonstrated a great resilience and fighting spirit to protect our present and future. If we extend the same willpower in building fundamental changes in the current school education system, then that will go a long way in shaping our own future. Failing which, we continue to endanger the future, the consequences of which will be far worse than current pandemic. To obtain so many conditions for the revamp of present education system, we need to understand few more points. Those are universal curriculum needs to be implemented pan India from class 8 itself. Educational budget should be substantial. More autonomy to the school and the teachers should be given so that they can work on it independently. The curricula should arise creativity, that is, tech savvy world children should be assigned to prepare presentations which would bring out the understanding of the students rather than teachers imposing their own views. Giving weightage to continuous assessment for overall progress report of the students rather than 2 or 3 pen paper tests. Setting up forum for teachers as well as students for creative project presentation. Teachers' promotion should be linked to paper presentation in different forums exclusively for this purpose. This will enable the teachers to get updated with times. Education board should constitute a body represented by teachers from different states to finalize the curriculum every 5 years. Board affiliation rules should be strictly followed and inspection must be carried out in time bound manner. So these are the basic factors which we should understand while taking the education system into a new level. Few important data collected from different aspects are education. Let me tell you, education is the passport to the future. For tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for today. Rightly said by Malcolm. India has more than 50% of its population below the age of 25 and more than 65 below the age of 35. It is expected that in 2022, the average age of Indian will be 29 years as compared to 37 for China and 48 for Japan by 2030. India's literacy rate is 74.04%. Youth literary rate measured within the age group of 15 to 24 is 81.1%. There are 799 universities, 39,071 colleges, 11,923 standalone institutions. So we have a terrific power to move ahead with a proper education system. Therefore, it can be extracted from the above information that India's growing population and increasing educational institutions have the power to mold the world. In the coming years, India will hold the power to carve its own niche in the world. Thus, I empathetically believe that India must do everything in its power to take greatest advantage of the present situation. If Indians are imparted vocational training and their skills are developed along with appropriate educational processes, the Indian economy can act as the work engine of the world. The newly formed Skill Development Ministry in India has already started working towards the goal, and that's the good news. That takes the skill development part, and hopefully, this ministry will succeed. But what about education? Are we doing enough? The answer is no. We have been boasting about our mammoth science graduate workforce, largest in the world. That's what they say. But many experts have proven on innumerable occasions that there is no learning or knowledge depth in our students. I am sure many of the intellectual readers will agree with this point. I mean, if you compare an IITian with any second tier college in US, there is a gigantic difference in the students' communication skills and overall personality. The IITian might far exceed the others on technical abilities, but that is not all. For the world's demand from an engineer. Currently, the government is trying to take the right steps in the direction, but there is a long way to go. What the current situation demands is a complete renovation of the entire system. Studying is parallel to cramming these days. Rote learning still outbreaks our system. Students are being forced to imbibe information that may or may not be necessary for their successful career. Most of the trend, tend to forget everything once the exams are over. Still, year after year, the same cyclone continues. The best crammers are rewarded by the system. This is one of the fundamental flaws of our education system. How many of you remember your 10th grade syllabus? No one. And especially the history? Not at all. Our testing and marketing systems need to be designed to recognize students' creative potential, problem solving, and innovative skills. The education system in India needs to be revamped in order to produce world leaders and champions rather than manufacturing a cheap labor force for the developed nations. We may have the highest number of engineering graduates in the world, but that's certainly not translated into noticeable technological innovation. Instead, we are busy running call centers for the rest of the world. Is that where our engineering skill ends? The goal of our new education system should be creative entrepreneurs, innovators, artists, scientists, thinkers, and writers who can establish the foundation of the knowledge based economy rather than low quality service provider nation that we are turning into. The policy makers need to focus on improving the quality of teaching in the country. Newer institutions keep cropping up every now and then, and they are hiring now low quality educators who are paid in peanuts. This has to change. The literacy rate in India, again, few data, my dear viewers, as per the last census, is 75% coming up to 80% now. This is promising when we compare to the world average of 84%. Yes, we do boast about how exponentially our literacy rate has gone up. But it but is all of this really as good as it seems. As per, as per the OECD countries, a group of economically and socially developed countries such as US, UK, Finland, Norway. The definition of literacy is to include skills to access knowledge through technology and ability to access complex contexts. However, in India, literacy is defined as total percentage of the population of an area at a particular time who can read and write with understanding in any one of the 22 languages. Here, the denominator of the population aged 7 years or more. Do you see the stark difference? While educating the minds of our youth, we must not forget to educate their hearts. However, if our country gets the education process wrong, the demographic dividend becomes a demographic disaster, especially in a country like India, because the frustrated and undereducated youth population becomes prey to the blandishment of terrorism and drugs. There are two kinds of education, one that teaches us how to make a living, and the other that teaches us how to live. So, which one do you prefer? India has to focus on both. We cannot deny the fact that the Indian government and institutions have been working to reform the existing education model. However, there are still several issues which are required to be taken care of. Number one is rote learning. We have progressed with time. However, we still have not been able to move away from the rote learning. Second, the evaluation system. Marks are still given to continue, are still playing the vital role in deciding the future of the children. And this often comes down upon students as a burdening factor, which needs to be changed. The third point, equal respect to all subjects should be given rather than only giving importance to science and technology. Sometimes it has been seen students are pushed to become machine, which goes for high profile subjects and subjects like then what happens is subjects like languages, communication, arts are looked down and are not considered as high profile. Students should rather be pushed to pursue the subject they like instead of creating a differentiation between subjects. Fourth point, which I should stress on, better training of educators. Teachers play the important role in school and hence they should be given best of the class training. After all, they are shaping the future of the nation. Introduction to technology. We all know we have incepted in the period of fourth industrial revolution. We are living in the generation of technology and in such a state, technology and education system cannot be kept apart. Personalized education should be another important vital factor. Indian education needs to realize that the absorption power of every student cannot be same. Hence, teaching method should also contain the same content which is apt according to the level of a student. Teachers must have a keen eye on observing each and every student. Next, teach them the purpose of education. Our education system still has the features that colonial educators inbuilt. Education is not always about becoming a rich and a famous person. It should be about being humanitarian. Students must be taught in depth about the morals of life and inculcated with humanistic values. They should be taught that life is much beyond money and success and should not be measured with money. If the education system of India start taking these points into serious consideration, we can attain the level of the best education system in the world. It is high time that we as a country take Start taking education above the mediocre level, and that we have ingrained with and perceive education from a holistic approach. Let us give a patient hearing to the views from few educators I have collected, such as one of the educator has said, to revamp the system, we need to shift our focus on hands-on experiential learning. They need flexibility of choice to be able to design their own degree and integrate it with ICT blended learning environment. Along with that, the education system should be inclusive and industry integrated. The academic rigor should aim at sustainable learning and creating new knowledge. For example, an engineer who has recently passed out should be having inclination towards machines and technology right from the initial stage and not take up the course just because his or her parents wished him to do so. So, my dear viewers, you can see there are so many other views. Just because of the time constraint, I can't go ahead. I need to stop here to understand your views as well. Thank you so much for the patient hearing. God bless you all.
Thank you, ma'am, for being so elaborately talking about it,
Yeah, it
and
was
the way
quite
you have,
yes.
explained with data related to it. So, coming back to what we were talking about, like in the beginning, um, you have mentioned about literacy. You have mentioned about the traditional education system that is there, but with the coming of the NEP, don't you think that what you were talking about will now take a new turn? How ready are the schools, do you think, to adapt the NEP?
NEP is still in process. NEP has been given a lot of importance. Students are eagerly waiting to get
Yeah,
NEP inculcated in the system. But NEP has to be revamped every 3 years, period of 3 years. Otherwise, like I will again quote, another viewers, another educator's view. What the educator says, if NEP is not reviewed in a period of 3 years, it might happen each year you get a budding field of career which will be, I mean, overlooked by NEP. I mean the coding. NEP didn't have much importance on coding, but coding is the need of the hour. So NEP has to involve and revisit every career and the field of technology, so that the entire attribute which a individual may possess should get the interest. Should have the interest of pursuing that career in future. So NEP is, of course, we all are working towards NEP. We have given our views to CBSE for NEP, but how far that will be helpful and how far that will get ingrained in the system is still a doubt.
there is a question from a viewer. Don't you think that during the pandemics, less importance was given to education by center and state government as compared to the developing countries?
Can you repeat the
The
question again?
Yeah, what I understand is he's trying to say is that during the pandemic, the government was not even bothered whether classes are going on or not, as compared to the developing countries. This is what he's saying. That do you think that the government was actually negligent towards it? Like they were not bothered to see whether which schools are, taking the classes or not taking the classes that way. So hasn't it led to, a regression in education, if you see, for 1.5 year? a
I
learning
agree
gap
to
with the
the
students.
I agree to the point. Yes, many schools could not. Again, that is what I have spoken in my entire lecture, that technology also should go hand in hand for all the subjects, not only science and maths. It should be for all the subjects. There should be a technology based subjects, whether it is Hindi, Marathi, science, maths, or whatever. So yes, that was, again, I will tell you, if you compare the rural and urban area schools were really doing good. Especially if I talk about my school, we started even before the pandemic started, thinking that we need to get future ready for our children. But yes, I would say my heart goes out to the rural areas where children, I don't think even now they are having a better online sessions. So yes, we need to work on technology more than anything else now.
And last question would be, so can you elaborate what are the important core areas of modern education? That is one of our viewers. He wants to ask you
Core
that can you
areas.
elaborate core areas?
Yeah. So the first is technology that has to be imbibed in this education system. Then coding has come up. Coding also is very important, where very soon we will be learning through AI. I mean, there. I will read out one of the viewers' point where they said, and that actually touched my heart. That is, there should be personalized training for each child, where you may not be having two teachers, but yes, you can have a teacher and another AI or robot to check the child. So these kind of technology should be given a kind of a training to the children, so that they can make their own robot to take care of themselves. So that's the main area where children should look upon, rather than just mugging up history, geography, and English and maths.
So thank you so much, ma'am. Thanking you for taking out time on a weekend and being with us. And we
So
look
that's my
forward to
pleasure.
another interesting session with you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Have a
And
lovely
God
day.
bless everybody. Thank you.